Chitza, being a Kodesh Baruch Hu, Anochi, so the person stands between the Chitza, between the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the person, right? You can be all the shoes of the Taylor, all the Taylor, anybody's Mivatal is the interest. His Baruch Hu's Baruch, Yochel, Lahasik, Shleimus, to have some midas, if you go to the top of the food chain, to have some midas, Vasisa Yishutev and Hashem, Kibashatiyu, and the Kiyim Hanish, right? These two psukim, Sisa Yashu, Atov and Hashem, Bechem, Kibashatiyu, Shehin C, it's the height, the heat base, the height of the mountain, the height of the mountain, the Yard is next is the third.
Hey, listen, don't do that again. I really,
I love doing that to you, by the way.
Not really proper. Sorry.
There's no house.
Good to see you.
You never house this here? Just from yesterday.
Oh, they're just,
You were yesterday? That's last week. Were you here last how was that? Yeah, it's really cool.
It's not going to be
I mean, you got small one, most of them.
It should be that cool.
Oh, hello, friends. Yeah.
It's easier to read the ones you Thank you.
Byam, darkecha, we're learning the Mimer of Katniss. So actual observation on the page, but there are some notes that would be good to do. So let's go back to Reish Nun. Page Reish Nun. Let's do some of the ha'aris starting from the top of Ches. Mechaber is explaining how in this avoida of Katniss, because Katniss is an avoida, that's the most important thing. Katniss is not just a Zman tour, a time when we're off from Yiddishkeit, or we just stay in bed or walk around depressed, chas v'shalom. It's a time of avoda. And the avoda consists of two parts. There's an avoda in machshava, and there's an avoda in maisa. And we were talking last Erev Shabbos, the chelik of machshava, part of machshava. A way to think, the proper and healthy way to think during a time of katnus. Whatever the reason is for that katnus, whether you know what the reason is or you don't know what it is, but in terms of one's avodas Hashem, how to think. So, in Tav Chav Ches, the Ikar Avoda L'maisa, rather than Machshava, is summed up in the pasuk in Nishbati V'Kayim Lishmor Mishpeit Tzikacha, which means that a person has to think in a way of akshanis, of stubbornness, of holy stubbornness, and the holy stubbornness is that I'm not nisbal at all from any of these svaras and tainis of the other side, that maybe you're not a tzaddik, and you already have fallen, and you're not who you thought you are, and so on and so forth, and to be able to have this healthy, strong machshava, as it says on top, afilu lui hishat tzaddik b'tainis yesh. Even if you have good tainis, even if you have good svaras, it doesn't make a difference, because sof kol sof, my responsibility is to remain, what Saul says, Levava Neman Lefanecha, to remain a person who's faithful, who stays on the program. So Tov Chav Ches, but Nemanis Hazos Noledes Mikar Zman Hagadlus. This is a very big yisod we find in the Chassidish Sfarim. The Sfarim talk about this on in many places, but particularly by Parshas Emor, where it says Emor Kahanim V'Amarta Aleim, Emor V'Amarta. So why does it have to say Emor V'Amarta? So Rashi says Lahazir Gedolim Alaktanim, that the older Kahanim have an achrayus to also make sure to teach and to warn and to explain to the younger Kahanim what their responsibilities are. So the pasuk is talking about godless and katnus. The Gedolim are obligated Lahazir Zaktanim. So the Sfar HaKadoshim tell us that at a deeper level, it's a remez to this avoda, which he's talking about over here. And then one says, "Man hagadlus." We all go through times of godless and of katnus. So lahazir gedolim alaktanim. Lahazir doesn't only mean to warn, lahazir, but it also means a lashon of zohar, which is to illuminate, to light. Zohar, shine. Lahazir gedolim al-kana means that a person has to prepare himself during the time of godless, just like Yosef HaTzadik told and gave instructions that during the time of godless, when things were going well, they need to prepare for the upcoming time of katnus, when there's not going to be what to eat. So too in a person's avoda, there's this avoda of lahazir gedolim al-kana, that during the time of godless, and Nemanis knows because man hagadlus, where does the strength of a Jew come from? That he should be able to navigate his way through the katnus. It comes from the time of godless. And we all have times of godless, whether it's an hour, it's a week, it's a year, whatever it is, but there's a time of godless. So Nemanis Hazos, to remain faithful during the times of famine, during the difficult times of katnus, it means taking from the time of godless, taking from the account that you have, the strong, healthy account during the time of godless, and drawing from that account lahazir alaktanim, to bring light into the time of famine, of spiritual ruchnistic famine. She says, because during the time of godless, it was good, it was lechtig, it was shining, things were good. The hirgish bebirur, and during the time of godless, he felt Hashem's presence very strongly. And during that time of godless, he's able to be in a place of very strong commitment and confidence in Zavodas Hashem. So lahazik dol maktana means that from the koach of that of that strength, of that clarity and confidence that he had during the time of godless, yuchal lehikonis la'avoda shel kabbalas ol ba'akshonis b'zman hakatnus. He's able to draw to the days of katnus, to the difficult or darker times. He's able to draw akshanis, this midah of remaining on course, stubbornness. V'yashush bekirba sha'afilu sha'achshav yesh hastara hamonas mimeni lahargish v'liros esamis, and you should concentrate on this thought, that even though right now there is this hastara, there's some concealment, there's whatever, some cloud that's not allowing me to feel the truth and to see it in a clear way. But the truth is, nothing has changed in the world. Just because I'm in this mood, just because I'm going through this thing, doesn't mean that the Baruch Shalom has left. Doesn't mean that anything has changed at all. So if you can identify the source of katnus, whatever, Parnas is not going well, I'm having a difficulty with this kid, I'm having problems with my marriage, whatever whatever the issue is, which you could trace to being a cause or has something to do with the feeling of overall katnus that you have right now in everything, with your davening, with your learning, a person can say, the fact that I didn't get my paycheck this month, something didn't work out with Parnasa, doesn't mean that all of a sudden the whole creation of the world and the Baruch Shalom and Soviv Kalam and Mamal Kalam, that everything has changed because Yankel didn't get his check. Lo shtana klum. Nothing has changed. Mamela Amshich Bavadasi. Mamela. The world is the same world. The Baruch Shalom is the same Baruch Shalom that I believed in when I was making a Parnas. It's the same Kodesh Baruch Hu. Everything's the same as it was during the time of my Galus, except this Nakuda in my life is something that is not going as well as I was hoping for. And my avoda is to serve the same Rebbeinu Shalom that existed when things were going well. It's the same Rebbeinu Shalom. Just continuing over the notes. Because our commitment to Hakadosh Baruch Hu goes back to Har Sinai. And each and every Jew is a mushba v'omed. Each one of us is a mushba v'omed. We swore our allegiance to Hakadosh Baruch Hu. We were all there. We were all there. And we're mushbaim v'omdim, that's our responsibility. That's our achrayus. The kaimis at Torah, Lias Eved Hashem. To continue on keeping Torah and to be Eved Hashem, regardless of, again, whether this has changed in my life or that is going on. We're mushbaim v'omdim for Har Sinai. That's who we are. Taf Lamed. So inyan ha'akdam l'kabbalas ha'Torah sh'anu zeichen l'sper 50 yom l'omer. And that's why we have the whole hakdama to receiving the Torah. Before we got the Torah, we had those 49 days coming to the 50th. We count the Sfiras Omer. Was move of Zohar Kodesh, who side bediku de'eshes chayil. The Zohar Kodesh calls this the bediku de'eshes chayil. Dahin shaboykim oislanu l'fnei matan Torah. Bediku de'eshes chayil means that we are Hakadosh Baruch Hu's eshes chayil, and we were preparing for the chasna, and bediku de'eshes chayil, and the way to check the faithfulness of the eshes chayil, whether or not we are pure and prepared and so on and so forth, that is through Sfiras Omer. This farm talk a lot about it. And how are we tested? How is our faithfulness tested? It's through Yeridus and the Filas, through difficult times, whether they're in Gashmias and Ruchnias. That's the way that Hashem's eshes chayil is being tested, is being examined. Coming Yeridus and the Filas, Ashlochs, Vachakis, feeling thrown away, pushed away. And that is the test to see how does this person manage during a time of harchaka. Which is what we were talking about yesterday in the Chabur that we were learning Meshivas Nefesh. We were learning Torah Ayin Dalet from Likutei Moran. So we have a chance to be kedai to listen to that, to go back to that. During a time of Yerida, during a time of Nefila. Not to walk away from his Russian to do the right thing. He continues talking to Hashem and crying out to Hashem, so on. That he wants to be the right person, he wants to do the right thing. And he's trying with all of his strength to be Neman, to be Neman L'Hashem Yisbarach. I mentioned some months ago, and somebody reminded me that it was helpful to him, that I had heard a marshal of a boy that was the father. It was a true story, whatever, but I don't know if it's true. But that there was a father that wanted his son to toughen up, and he took him to some karate, some big Rebbe for that stuff, and the condition that the master, this guy, made was that I have to have him for a year. If you want me to work with your kid, I have to have him for the year. And the father gave the kid to him for a year, and then at the end of the year there was supposed to be this big demonstration, a big show where he was holding in his kaiches, and the parents came, and it was the old man and the kid were going to have this fight, and the kid was being knocked down one time after the old man was knocking him down one time after the other, and the father said, "Stop, ready, stop." And the father said, "This is what was done in a year. I mean, you know, you knocked my son down 50 times. So what was the whole tachlis?" So the old man said, "What are you talking about? Your son got up 50 times. That was the tachlis. That's a gewaldige marshal. Your son got up 50 times. That's the ikkus chaskus of a person in this world. Is that your son was knocked down 50 times and he got up. That's the ikkus chaskus in the world." The davka, the note continues on Reish Alpha. Davka b'mesh shemenasim es adam b'kamen nefilas v'ashlachas. Davka, this is the test. The person is put through kamen nefilas and ashlachas. Knocked down. Zebatz manasa kli lakablas or hanifla shamat Torah. That's the kli. That is what creates the kli to receive the or, the light of Matan Torah, of the Torah. Because the pnimius of every nisayon is liros im ha'adam rodze kirvas elakim. To see whether you really want kirvas elakim. Is that something which is really important to you? Or is it only when things are going well and it's a time of godless and you're into it, and or they lashon use it's working for you? Ashirotz lios mashu. It's just lios mashu means it does something for you. It makes you feel good. Or is it something you're doing because you're an Eved Hashem? If you're an Eved Hashem, you get back up. If it was something just to make you look good or to feel good, so you could stay on the floor. Taf Lamed Aleph. Vayidei zeh sha'ashchina makira oseh, ki nidbak ba b'malkom hakatnis v'akoshi, b'malkom hakabolos olva ne'emanis. And that is what gives a person recognition in the eyes of the Shechina. In the eyes of the Shechina. Where the person is very, very strong and determined. I am an Eved Hashem, and that's my tachlis is to be an Eved Hashem and to be mesameach the Shechina, and that gives tremendous nachas to the Shechina. Ki klal gadol hu al techapes es hashchina begadlus. The natural instinct of a person is to feel that davka during a time of gadlus, that's when the Shechina is smiling strongest in his life. That's when Hashem is most proud of him. That's the natural. That doesn't mean Hashem is not proud of him during that time, but that's the natural instinct. Is that during a time of gadlus, that's the ikka connection that I have to the Shechina. He said, "Al techapes hashchina begadlus, im lo zacharta osabes hakatnis." But Hakadosh Baruch Hu is saying, yes, I'm very proud of you during the times of gadlus, but that's only if you get up during the times of katnis, that you're real Eved Hashem. So al techapes hashchina begadlus, don't go looking for the Shechina during a time of gadlus, and lo zacharta osabes hakatnis, if you weren't with him when it wasn't going well. If you weren't with him when it was when you weren't in first place, when you were in last place, and nevertheless, despite the fact you're in last place, you kept on davening, you kept on trying to learn, you kept up with the mitzvahs. So then of course, then you come back to the gadlus. Of course, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is very, very happy with you. But you have to be an Eved Hashem, whatever it is. When you're a person that you're makabel al malchus shemayim, and you remain faithful to Hashem during a time of katnus. And even though it's a time of katnus inside of yourself, you're doing the best you can. You're trying very hard to be Megala Kved Hashem during this time. The way to be Megala Kved Hashem is not necessarily the way you do it when it's time of Gadlus. So you're not accomplishing as much. But you're doing the best you can right now to be Neved Hashem. As I yizker leikanos legadlus amayichin, that ne'amanis, that stubbornness is the ticket to bring you to a place, to return to a place of Gadlus. Because you cannot separate between Gadlus and Katnus. Because the whole tachlis that a person is put through Katnus is to come to true Gadlus and a higher level of Gadlus. The difficulties that a person is having is because Hashem, as we learn, because Hashem is preparing you for a new madrega, to come to a new level of Gadlus. Nevertheless, the ikar way to respond to the Yetzer Hara is not with tainus and svaras. It's not good to get into a shakla v'taya with the other side, to get into all kinds of discussions and conversations and justifications and rationalizations and explanations and so on. The best thing is Bofen Shel Nitzuach. Bofen Shel Nitzuach means I'm not interested in all of these ideas that you have about how I'm not really a tzaddik and what I was doing during the time of Gadlus was phony, I'm a fake, it was just to show off, and all these different things, and not to get into svaras and all the arguments that you might be right and afal pichein. All of those are, if you are caught up in the argument, to have at least have some good tinus back. But the truth of the matter is, it's better to not get bechlal into a argument, into a discussion with the other side, ever. It's just an ofen shel nitzuach. Ofen shel nitzuach is to just win. Not by trying all kinds of svaras. Nitzuach. Because you have to be careful. Because when you're in a place of katnus, your mind can be working is usually working in an entirely different way, and will find all different svaras against your good svaras. It'll make stronger counter arguments. That's how, when a person is during the time of katnus. So part of that experience of katnus is just not to have confidence, not to have that clarity. So you're not at the top of your game. So you're going to start with all kinds of svaras. These svaras might be not so convincing to yourself. So that's why the best thing is not to get into any conversation with the other side, and just to say, okay, everything you're saying, you're very, very smart, it's very good, you're right, I'm not a tzaddik, I'm terrible, and all these things he's saying. I'm not getting into all these conversations. My avodah is to be an Eved Naaman. So I'm not interested in what you have to say. I have to go down. I'm busy. I'm sorry. I can't talk to you now. That's it. Done. Tov Lamed Gimel. I just remember now that I had gone through this whole thing, something with school and with the finals, and I finally it was the whole week with a lot of tests and studying and everything. It was done, and it was like 3 a.m. or something. I went to bed, and the whole thing, and my father came in to wake me up for Shachris to come daven, and I said, Daddy, I went to bed just like 2 hours ago. So he said, it doesn't make a difference. That's Shachris is at 7. Get up. And it was like, he didn't understand what I was saying. But what difference does it make what time you went to bed? You worked that out, but the Shachris is at 7. And that was the late Shachris. Because probably my mother said, have Rachmanus on him, so, because he usually went earlier. So What does that have to do with anything? Like, what are you even talking about? That you're tired? It wasn't at all a svara to say that you're tired, this, you're that. It's on the schedule. You have to go. You do what you have to do. There's no arguments, there's no conversations, there's no discussions, just get up. Do what you have to. This is a very, very hard thing to sell to the kids nowadays. Most parents are afraid even to talk about it in such a way, to suggest such a thing. But that's the lashon that the Yetzer Hara understands that lashon. It has a certain respect for that lashon. It doesn't have respect for the whining and the crying. The Yetzer Hara has respect for. It's like that with all of our enemies, you know that. That's the only way to defeat our enemies is by nitzuach, not getting into conversations with them, not diplomacy, and all of that stuff. The other day, Trump said that he said such a lashon. You heard that with Hamas. I don't know if he will or he won't. He says all kinds of strong things. He's not the regular person, but the way he said it, he said, basically said we're gonna kill you, we're gonna destroy you. Like that, a year and change of the Democrats, the svaras and all kinds of conversations and discussions to talk to Rishayim, to talk to Rishayim, to Amalekim in such a way that they laugh at you. That's how the Yetzer Hara laughs at you when you start up with all the conversations and so on. The Yetzer Hara is the same thing. They laugh at you. You don't get a hostage back from having a shmooze. That's not how it works. You blow their brains out. That's the only way it works. And you go straight. And that, the other side has darkecha for that. That's why right now, all over the world, all the Rishayim are sitting. The mom is shaking. What's coming up. They're all afraid what's coming, whether it's in China, in Russia. All the Rishayim right now, all they're doing day and night of having meetings about what are we going to do. They didn't have that during the time of this administration. They didn't have any meetings. They all went to sleep. They all said Hamapil. It was like nothing to worry about. Life is good. You can do any wishes, and everything is gewaldig. Anything is gewaldig. And if you do a new wishes tomorrow, then they're going to call up and say, please don't do it. And it's really not nice. And we're asking you to think this over. And they laugh the whole time. All the Rishayim, they sit in their rooms, in their meetings, and they're laughing. And now they're all sitting. They're all up at night. They can't go to sleep. What are they going to do? What's going to be? Because there's a lashon now of what? Of confidence. There's a certain, and the people that are being put in there, and also Mishagoyim, are being put in, and now the Rishayim are having meetings about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? That's how it works always with the Sitra Achra, always with the Yetzer Hara. It's the same thing. When the Yetzer Hara hears such a thing, that we're going to have a board meeting about this. We have a board meeting about this. Remember that when it came to getting this building, Baruch Hashem up. It's not the anniversary of Vayetz. It's not when the building was put up, but that was Parshas Truma. But the Shul, Baruch Hashem, this Vayetz is, I think, the 32nd year. I'm not sure, something like that. I think it's the 32nd year. So when it came to the building, so it's this conversation, this meeting, that meeting, this meeting, that meeting. There was one of the Chaver just said, "This is ridiculous. Let's just go and buy it. Build it. We'll figure it out." And yeah, that was Israel. Let's just figure it out. We're not gonna stop the meetings. No more meetings. No more conversations. Dabro b'nei Yisrael v'Yisrael, and Baruch Hashem. Okay, we needed a couple of things fixed, but it's still Chazdei Hashem. And that's, you get into all the, once it's a meeting, once it's a conversation, once it's that, it's all the greatest things in the world were done by saying no conversations. Even though everybody thinks there's davka through all the meetings and all the conversations that we mavara, all these sugyas, but to get anything done in the world is because there's always one Jew that says, Dabro b'nei Yisrael, let's go. That's all. And not to get with the other side of the Yetzer Hara, to get into conversations, because they're always svaras keneged and then even if you end up trying something, you're doing it from a place of chalishas, of weakness, not from a place of ischazkas. The ikar is to go with ischazkas. Tav Shlab Mit Gimel. Ki b'chol eish she'adam noifel lekatnis hamoichin, yedish zekem aleida. Whenever a person is in a place of moichin lekatnis, in a darker place, a smaller place, it's like giving birth. It means you're about to give birth to something new. In the same way when a woman is about to give birth, it's a katnis and pain and so on. Shetzrichim has mesirus nefesh. Beside shivim hakoila shel hayaledes, move Zar Kodesh. The Zar Kodesh makes a very big deal about when the woman is in labor. She cries out 70 times. Doesn't mean you should stand there counting when but it means that there's an Indian of shivim koilas that has to do with the oisias and the tefillah and Visualisaida and many different things are connected to this, but which Rabbi Nachman talks about also, the screaming of the yoledes, of the woman who's giving birth, because it's a hard time. It's a hard time, and the ikar inyan of the woman who's in labor is that you don't have the doctor or the nurse or the midwife saying to her, well, let's talk about this. How are you feeling right now? Is this hard for you? If it's hard for you, then that's not how it goes. They just start yelling at her, push, push, push. Come on, you could do it. They don't say, if you're not feeling up to it, we can do this another time. That's not how it goes. That's not how you give birth to anything. If it's hard, don't do it. If it's hard for you, don't do it. I had this thing with my wife because during she's always right, but I'm still like, from like the story I told about my father. So every now and then there was this thing when the kids were growing up that like my wife, like the kid could use a day off from school. Just like not sick. I had to have like 102, at least like 102 to stay home. And now there's like this. My wife's American, and like day off. I said, for what?
It's a mental health day.
I know what mental health
day.
A day off. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. What kind of day off? You have to go to school. And so, okay, I might have, I guess, that I just misread, the time that we're in. But there was this day off for a kid, because he has a streak of 20 days straight going to school, so the kid gets off now. What is that? What is that? And then now it's, of course, I understand it. I could say like both ways. This mental health day, whatever they call it, day off. People do that. People do that at work. Now they give husbands off if the wife has a baby. You heard about this?
Paternity.
Someone just told them they had like a month off or something. More. Your wife had a baby. You should be going to work more. No, it's not. I thought that's what it is. You need to buy diapers and more food. No, your wife had a baby, so you also get off to help. Yeah, to help. You agree with that?
That's for equality.
Mental health. What is it? Is that no comment? Your wife had a baby and you get off from work. Maybe because you go to work and it's hard for you, your wife should get off from taking care of the kids. And she gets off. She gets a mental health day. And the women don't get mental health days. The guy gets off because his wife had a baby. 9 months. I say. I heard this. And that's in the contract. It's official. It's official.
Paternity, they call it.
Paternity leave.
Paternity and paternity. Paternity for the father.
Well, what did he do? He gets off to help his wife.
One day. Was it? Right? One day.
Half a day for the first.
Right?
Half a day for the first.
Yeah. Okay. You have to take care. I understand. You have to take care of something. But it's like a whole month or something that he's off. What is he doing? She probably wants to get him out of the house. Is he hanging around over here? Go to work.
3 months.
What?
3 months.
3 months.
No.
Yeah.
Some companies, yeah.
3 months paternity?
That's the law, PFL.
And also,
Wow.
it's not, you can take it over like a year period. It's not like all.
So even if it's not what she needs the help necessarily.
Okay.
So you're going to take off by the World Series. So the wife has the baby in January. She says, September, October, whatever. October. I'm going to take off in October. Why? But your wife had a baby. Have to head out to the West Coast or something. So the whole world is in such a place of katnas, of such katnas. So the avoda of time of birth is that it's hard and it requires mesirus nefesh. It means pushing. Yikabel atam mesirus nefesh limser es nafshe shaloi lehispal miakatnas. Shaloi lehispal miakatnas. Not to be nispal from whatever the katnas is. B'koach zeh yivoleit havlad. And with that koach of even though this is hard and it hurts, but you continue to push, that's how the kid is born. And that's how the godless is born. That's how something new comes into your life. Shemadrega chadasha b'avodas Hashem is born. Which is a new madrega. That baby is a new madrega in avodas Hashem. You get a mazel tov. It's a new madrega in avodas Hashem. But that comes through going through labor. Going through labor. The Yeda Shabbat says, "Hamelach mechake sheyalachim v'amalek." What Hakadosh Baruch Hu was watching during that time, that's when the person is being tested, whether he can move on to the next madrega, and the king is waiting that you should fight against Amalek, whatever that Amalek, whatever form that Amalek takes at that time in your life. The Amalek is trying to knock you down. That you should have chalishes adas. You should give up. The Talmud Kilo Ein Hashem is Baruch Rotzo. So the tiny of Amalek is Hashem doesn't want you. If Hashem really wanted you, He wouldn't put you through this. It means that He doesn't want you. He's pushing you away. Elo Yisayra Lahamin Hashem is Baruch Ito Imo ve'etzlo. The avodah is Yisayra Lahamin, to believe that Hashem is Baruch is Ito Imo ve'etzlo. Is with you Imo ve'etzlo. Usameach b'milchamtai, and Hakadosh Baruch Hu has nachas from you that you're getting up and you're in the milchama. Shalzman delusa during this difficult time. Kitzarach lechabed kol madrega b'avodas Hashem u'mishum avaza v'enu mechabed u'marachas hamadrega zu. A person has to be mechabed whatever the madrega is in his avodas Hashem. And like Rabbi Nachman told Rabbi Nosson, a bissel is oich good, a little bit is also good. This is your madrega right now. A bissel is oich good. You'd make sure to stay with it. That's it. Right now, it's a little bit of pach shemen, a little jar of oil, and spoon of b'chas b'chaygola. They have a little bit of oil left in you right now. That's whatever you could do, you do. And to mechabed this madrega of Hashem. Ein lo esa knisa. He says ein lo esa knisa v'aderech. Echli kans madrega yozeh p'nim. So without that, you can't go onto the next madrega. And okay, page Nun Beis. So we were talking about until now a way to think, the chelik and machshava, and now we're going to talk more about the chelik l'maisa. The chelik l'maisi, yikones la'avoda b'derech shel kabbalas ol ba'akshanis, to practically enter or take on this period of time in a way of kabbalas ol, to accept the responsibility to continue on ba'akshanis v'yikayim. Not to let go of your place, not to fall out, not to fall away. The ikr is not to pay any attention to the fact that right now you're not feeling really much. Not to think about that. And also, don't think about how I'm not doing things the way that I used to. That my davening right now is not how it was, and my learning is not how it was. This is not what you should be thinking about at all during that time. Ela yishmar al sidrei avadasa kifi yechalta. The ikr is to keep whatever the seder that you normally have, even though you usually have more feeling and excitement, doesn't make a difference. Yishma al sidrei avadasa kifi yechalta, according to what you can. V'yavoid, to continue on working hard, mitoch hakshanos, stubbornly. L'mayla me'hargoshes v'hagyonis alev, to fly over all these this lack of feeling and interest. Because during a time of katnas, Iker ha'avoidahi lishma ala mitzvahs. The Iker avodah during katnas is keeping the mitzvahs, making sure not to stop. And all the good things that you normally do to try to do, b'po'al l'maisa. You talk Kabbalah all without feeling, without emotion, without knowing and understanding, just Kabbalah all. And by doing this, even though it's complete chitzonis, you don't feel anything. It's chitzonis gemur. Through that, the person is able to prove to himself Shehu Eved Hashem, Neman Be'emes, and Kivyoch to Hashem, that he's an Eved Hashem, faithful to Hashem. And you do whatever you can do. Bli kesh lahatzlachas, without any kesher, without anything, it has nothing to do with whether you're matzlich or not matzlich, what you're doing. The ikr is to continue on and doing what you're supposed to do, and to stay away from what you're supposed to stay away from. And that nemanis, that akshanis, is the way that you build the new madrega. That's how you give birth to something new. That itself. Now, you think that it's just a holding pattern. It's not a holding pattern. It's a binyan, just like that kid with the karate. That's not just a holding pattern that he got up 50 times. That's a binyan. That's the yesod of the binyan of him being a person who's a fighter himself, and who's going to, and himself is going to knock down somebody 50 times. That's the binyan. That's how it's built. That's how you build the Moichin and Hagosh. It's not that nothing is being accomplished. You feel nothing is being accomplished because you don't feel any interest or excitement. It's not true. You're building the yesod of the next madrega to give birth to a higher madrega, to new level, a new way of thinking, a new hargoshes, a new feelings. She'avo acharkach, the madrega haba, with the next madrega, the higher madrega. The yasmid b'kiyim ha'avodah b'poel. And the ikr is to continue on with the just practically going on doing what you're supposed to. Af below leiv, even though you have no heart, even though you don't have any heart in it, there's no feelings. Vaf lo shleimus, even though things are not as perfect as they were and as such shleimus as they were. Kamoshu rogel, like you're accustomed to. B'schuz zeh, and that schuz. Yizke sha'acharkach yachzu elav riksha alev. You're building the new feelings that will come. Im teisefes muva, and it's going to be ma'aseh v'harlach. Even though you only are able to light right now this little thing of oil, it'll be ma'aseh v'harlach. How does that happen? That's when Hashem sees that you're an Eved Neman, all kinds of nisim, all kinds of miracles happen, and the little jar of oil can stay lit for 8 days. That's how it is. It's ma'aseh v'harlach. Ma'aseh v'harlach. Because even though the ikr is the heart, when it's a time of katnas, you don't pay attention to the emotions, to the feelings. The main thing is derech hamaisa, just the maisa. And not to go away, not to leave your achrayis and your responsibilities. And we're going to go through review some of these responsibilities that you make sure that you stay with during that time of katnas. Well, let's look at Taf Lamed Daled. And during the time of katnas, so where's the simcha from? The simcha is that I'm fighting. I'm thanking you that I'm still fighting, and I have simcha for the milchamas. I'm fighting. I'm a Jew. And I'm an Eved of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Melech Malchem Melachim. Don't pay attention to what the results are. The ikr is I'm in the Melchama, and the simcha of being one of Hakadosh Baruch Hu's fighters. That's it. Hello, etzem milchama. The etzem hamilchama, the fact that I'm fighting. From there you take a simcha. Byam is the ma'isa koshi urak b'haschola. The truth is, it's really difficult at the beginning. That's when it's hard. If you keep up with it, you'll be zech to the light of the Shechina. Shutvekis v'nom or ziv elaki. Connection to Hashem. Well, kaidim shemiskal ha'or. Before that or, this miskal is revealed. Tzarchlis anig ala mesirus nefesh atzma. Tzarchlis anig, to have pleasure and joy from the actual mesirus nefesh. From the mesirus nefesh itself, that you know that when you do something that's right with the mesirus nefesh, it's a very, very deep tanug that a person has, even though it's so hard. At the same time that it's hard, you have tremendous tanug from the milchama itself, from the mesirus nefesh. It's the deepest tanug that a person has when you're fighting for a cause that you believe in. It's the deepest tanug that a person can have, the greatest tanug. It doesn't mean it's easy, it doesn't mean it's like happy, but it's a tanug. It's a deep tanug. L'smoach lulcha milchamas Hashem. Ki b'shvil lava tzarech tanug. Because a person always needs to feel tanug, to feel fulfillment and pleasure. Pleasure is not the word. Tanug, from what he's doing. So but how can you feel tanug during a time of katnus? The Torah is from the etzem hamilchama, from the milchama itself, from the mesirus nefesh itself. There are soldiers that you could read about. Soldiers that will tell you that the highest point in their lives was when they were in the war. At the same time that it was the most painful and horrible time in their lives, but the rest of their lives they're looking for that high that they had when there was a milchama. From that time when they were moist and nefesh for something that they believed in. It's the most elevated time in a person's life when you're moist and nefesh for something that you believe in. Kshein tanug shel or v'hargosh etzarech liikanos the tanug shel ishtakekus u'mesirus nefesh. To go into you're not having a pleasure right now from the actual avodah. It's hard for you, but the tanug from mesirus nefesh you could feel. You should think about it. A tanug laharus ne'emanus lavinu ha'eva yisbar. What is that tanug? That tanug is to show Kadosh Baruch Hu, to show Hashem Baruch that I'm an Eved Ne'eman, that I'm with you. And everybody knows that when you do something and you do it with mesirus nefesh and it's the right thing to do, the good thing to do, that's mamish a high thing, the highest thing in a person's life. It's the greatest feeling in a person's life. At the same time, that it's very hard, and you don't enjoy it. But the tanug is a tanug pnimi. It's a very, very deep pnimistic tanug that a person has at a time of mesirus nefesh. When you do something for somebody that you love, for something that you believe in, even though it's difficult, it's hard, but it's a deep tanug that a person feels during that time. So now he's going to go through just examples of mesirus nefesh when it comes, and akshanis when it comes to each of these avodas. But we'll continue that Bez Hashem next time.
Ready for next year.
So I'm going to be away Bez Hashem for the next 2 weeks, and we'll continue afterwards.
Ari Leibowitz told the story this week that he was in.
Say it again.
Ari Leibowitz told the story this week that he was in Shalvin at Byam, and he was telling about the boys who have been serving. So Byam said there was one boy who he asked him, he was an introverted kid, very quiet guy, and he said to him, "How's it going in the army?" He said, "It's terrible." So there's no time to himself, there's no showers, he can't think. And so Byam was saying, he was like, "What am I going to say to this boy?" And the boy looked at him and said, "What does that do with me?" He said, I'm serving the country, what does it do with me? It's not about me.
And he's going to remember that for the rest of his life.
Right.
And that's going to help him to be a better father and a husband. He should just be